Hi everyone, it's Nick. Welcome back to my channel. Okay, in today's video, we are going to be talking about my 2025 interior design predictions. This is me going into my crystal ball and looking, what do I think is gonna happen in interior design in 2025? What is gonna be trending? What is gonna be popular? Now, as is always the case when I do a trend video, people go, I don't follow trends. I prefer a timeless look. And we go, good for you. We love that for you. But you clicked on the video, so I don't know why you're so mad in the comment section, because this is what the video is about. We're gonna be discussing the trends. We all experience trends. You know what I mean? Like, we all absorb them. We take the ones that we like, we incorporate them into our home, or we just appreciate them from afar. We take the ones that we don't like, we laugh at them because it's fun, because people do stupid things in their homes and that's enjoyable for us. And we move on. And that's really what this video is. So don't take it too seriously. This is just trends. No one's dying here, okay? This is just interior stuff that's really popular at the time. Take what you like, leave the rest as always, and let's get going. Okay, but before I whip out that crystal ball and talk about 2025 trends that are upcoming, I want to thank today's sponsor, which is Beam. So I have really struggled with my sleep in the last year or so, probably due to stress, and that is where Beam comes in. So Beam creates high quality functional supplements for better balance, performance, recovery, and sleep. I've been taking the Beam Dream for about 2 weeks now, adding 1 scoop to hot water about 30 to 45 minutes or so before bed, kind of like a nighttime little hot chocolate for me. And I find it super helpful in getting me relaxed and sleepy so that I can fall asleep and, more importantly, stay asleep. I usually can go to sleep easily. It's the staying asleep that's a problem. Beam Dream is clinically shown to support your sleep and uses natural ingredients like L-theanine, melatonin, and magnesium to promote relaxation and to help regulate your body's circadian rhythm. So if you want some help with your sleep, shop early and access Beam's cyber sale, where you can click the link below, or you can scan the QR code that is on your screen right now and use code nicklewis for up to 50% off site-wide. Don't miss out on this limited time offer. Now let's get back to those trend predictions. Okay, first trend is going to be mid-tone and moodier colors. So we're gonna talk about tints, tones, and shades again, because you know I love it. I love it and you love it. We have the primary hue. Primary hue is a color, blue, red, green, whatever, purple. And then what you do is, if you're adding black, you're creating a shade. And if you're adding white, you're creating a tint. And if you're adding gray, you're creating a tone. You're toning that down. Gray is just a mix of black and white. When you add it to a primary hue, it tends to look dustier and more desaturated. So what am I talking about when I'm talking about mid-tones and I'm talking about shades? I'm talking about taking some of those primary hues, those whatever color it is, blue, red, green, although there are some colors trending more than others, and adding more gray and adding more black. I think for a long time, people wanted light, fresh spaces, right? They wanted something really airy. They wanted, we had like the white, the farmhouse white everything, the all white influencer, Salt Lake City, Mormon mom look, right? Where everything was super whitewashed and everything was all oak and white and farmhousey, and it was all really cute. And then I think, people started to be really tired of that because we were bored of it. And then we kind of started to move into more of these desaturated colors. So yes, color is back. There was the whole incredibly big pops of color that we saw, where we saw big bright pinks and blues, and that's still popular, especially amongst the Gen Zs and the postmodern stuff. But a lot of people are taking some of those colors, so instead of just kind of going with those neutrals, the black, white, gray, and beige, and instead going with, let's use those greens and purples and reds and things, but maybe let's dial them back a little bit. They don't need to be quite so neon and quite so primary hue, like I talked about, and adding a little bit more gray and a little bit more black. So creating those darker shades of some of those colors, bringing those into the home. These are the colors that I see as really trendy. Now, I said earlier, which colors are trending, which ones aren't? Well, I see a lot of reds and I see a lot of yellows as being particularly trendy. Benjamin Moore released their colors of the year. All the paint cartels always do release their colors of the year every year. They did a video on that. Go check that one out. And of course, Benjamin Moore said that it was sort of this mauve sort of purple. And as I said in that video, I don't know if purple is the it color for me, but I do agree with the idea of there being a more of a desaturated purple and a little bit more of a darker purple. So a lot of those moodier colors. So even a color like red, which you might be thinking, red, I don't really want it to look so big, bright red. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want that Ronald McDonald hair sort of color choice in my home. Well, that's because when you tone it down and you add a little black to it, it starts to feel really moody, really sophisticated. And those are the colors that are really popular. Bear released their color Rumors this year. Well, didn't release it, but that was their color of the year. That I agreed with as being a really great color choice, because I think that really taps into this trend of moodier, darker, desaturated sort of color choices being used. Still color, just maybe not so fluorescent. Okay, and then next up on my list, and this is related, but not, and that is mid-tone woods. So for a long time, I said, remember that mommy blogger I told you about a second ago? Remember we talked about her with all of her white kitchen and everything was white, white, white. Love that. That's, you know, she had the big kitchen island. She had the big kitchen island in the white kitchen where she ran her sort of like MLM. You know what I mean? Like we saw that. We saw that everywhere in 2019 to like 2021. Like it was just so popular, wasn't it? And then we all decided to go in a different direction. And I think that that's probably a good thing. And included in that conversation of the all white home was light colored woods. Now, I will say I love light colored woods as well, because I do think it's a nice alternative to the gray wood, because my issue with gray is that it's not particularly natural, because that's not really the color of wood, which is my main issue with it. But a lot of the really, really light woods are beautiful in Scandinavian design. That's sort of where they have their roots. So we're talking those really beautiful light oak floors. Those have been really popular and trending now for a number of years. So why am I thinking that the most popular ones are moving into the midtones? Because those midtone woods are huge again. Things like walnut, things like Douglas fir, those sort of like midtone woods that are less the light, airy sort of white oak and a little bit more into those little bit darker wood choices are becoming really popular. Why? Because it fits into the design style and the color choices that I just talked about in terms of color as well. People are moving a little bit away from that light, fresh, white, airy sort of vibe and a little bit more moving into something a little bit more richer and sophisticated. Not that the white isn't sophisticated, just moodier, darker, cozier, homier. Do you know what I mean? And then mixing that with some of those traditional patterns, I think is going to be very popular for 2025 and beyond. I think it's really interesting. Again, you don't have to take, if you sit there and you're like, but Nick, I listened to you in 2022 and I got light oak flooring, I'm going to kill you because I regret everything. Why didn't I go for a darker colored wood? Do not regret those light colored woods. They are timeless and beautiful. I'm just saying what's trending is the midtones. But light oak is always, in my opinion, a classic material choice. It will always be beautiful. As these things tend to do, it might not necessarily be as trendy, but it's classic. So definitely don't regret those light wood choices. It's a natural material. Wood is timeless, okay? And light oak is a natural material that is timeless. But I do think in terms of what is hot and popular, if you're looking for what is trendy, it's moving into these midtones again. Okay, and then next up, I'm going to be talking flooring, and what's hot in flooring right now is thinner planks, skinnier planks than we have seen in previous years. For a very long time, especially in the world of engineered hardwood, and of course, you could also put luxury vinyl plank in here or even laminate in this conversation as well, even though obviously those two are just trying to mimic engineered hardwood, just in a cheaper and or more durable fashion than necessarily engineered hardwood. If you're not familiar with the difference, laminate is basically like a screen printed version of making it look like wood, but it's not really wood. It's like a fake wood, but it's printed to make it look like it has wood grain. Luxury vinyl plank is literally made of vinyl, and one of the biggest advantages is it's incredibly durable. Oftentimes is going to be cheaper as well. Laminate's definitely going to be cheaper, but vinyl plank, it is made of vinyl, so it's like waterproof. So, you know, you can spill something on it and it's very durable. So it's very popular with rentals, very popular with people with kids. It's used a lot mostly because of its durability. Engineered hardwood is got a really thin layer, a wear layer of actual real wood. And so that's going to be the difference. It's kind of like a veneer in that sense, right? And then you got actual hardwood, which is thick hardwood that you can actually like sand down multiple times because it's like real hardwood. So within the world of laminate slash vinyl slash engineered hardwood, for a number of years, wide plank flooring was very, very popular. So the 7-inch plank was sort of the default plank that you saw very popular in contemporary design, and you still see it a lot. However, I think as we move towards some of these, you know, nod to traditional, which has definitely been a lot more popular in the last year or two, and I think will continue to be in 2025 and beyond, you're starting to see those planks become a little bit skinnier again, especially if you're using herringbone or maybe a chevron, although not really super popular right now, but herringbone is still a very popular pattern people are using. Starting to see those planks that are more that kind of standard 5-inch plank being used a lot more in interior design in contemporary spaces as opposed to the 7-inch. Again, if you have a 7-inch oak flooring, do not regret it. It is still looking beautiful. It's still wonderful and amazing, but moving back towards the 5-inch. And I think that's mainly driven, again, because if we look at hardwood, like as in solid hardwood, not engineered hardwood, that usually doesn't come in 7-inch, right? So that is very much sort of a manufactured sort of product as opposed to, you know, those are going to be quite thin, and that's largely due to the construction. So the engineered hardwood, you can go to 7 inches, same obviously with vinyl and laminate, and that's why we saw 7-inch become so popular. But I think in this nod to some of the more traditional looking flooring or the traditional patterns like herringbone or whatever, moving back towards the 5-inch has become more popular now, and I think think will continue to be into next year. Okay, next up on my list, and this is a little bit more of kind of an interior design style thing, which is gonna be different like folk references. I just see like everything's just looking really folksy. We're just seeing things like quilts and patterns and nod to traditional patterns, patchwork things, different sort of woven materials that are just a little bit more folksy, that little nod to sort of cottagey, sort of, I'm gonna say like a nod to just feeling very folksy. It's just feeling very folksy these days in terms of what design style I think is really popular at the moment. So seeing a lot more things like stained glass being really popular, rich sort of upholstery, especially in really interesting or classic patterns that we've seen. So those stripe patterns being really popular, paisley patterns being really popular, things that had not been as popular in years past because again, everything was much more mid-century, everything was much more Scandinavian, which usually favored much more simple materials, very simple palettes, and less pattern really being brought in. Now we're seeing, again, with this sort of nod to traditional being much more of a driving force in interior design. These sort of different kind of arts and crafts sort of pieces are just sort of being used, I think, a lot more in design. You're just seeing so much more of it. And I think it's something that you're gonna see being a lot more popular in future years. Definitely gonna be trending in 2025. And this is, again, just the shifting in design style as people are looking for something a little bit cozier and a little bit more homey. And you definitely get that with this sort of like folksy inspiration that you're seeing being so popular now. Okay, next up on my list is going to be matte bathtubs. So this is something that I think you've seen so popular recently, is especially just in the bathroom in general, like composite toilets and concrete, different materials being used in the bathroom. I guess I could have called it that, but I decided to zero in on the bathtub just because I think matte bathtubs are so popular right now. But even like concrete sinks being really popular, they come in lots of different colors, so people are getting a little bit more creative. And I think this is really fun because it's a trend, yes, but it also is just new products being brought to market that are creating and allowing for more creativity in the bathroom, especially in those fixed elements. Because usually what people do when it comes to the bathroom, let's be honest, is they go white toilet, white sink, maybe a pedestal, maybe something like that, probably some very basic millwork, and then they go, okay, what are you gonna pick for a bathtub? A white bathtub, right? You're gonna pick a white glossy sort of bathtub. We've all seen it 1,000 times. Could be an alcove tub, freestanding, whatever. Freestanding has definitely been trending, especially in the luxury space. But you know, seeing just kind of your basic run-of-the-mill, go to Home Depot, grab what you find there, sort of fixtures happening in the bathroom for a long time. And people are starting to open up different creative choices in terms of what do they want to do for material. So yes, we've seen different sink styles, like pedestal sinks and stuff go in and out of fashion, but just different materials I think being used is really interesting. I've talked about the marble sarcophagus before, or also known as the like Russian oligarch bathroom that I have oftentimes made fun of here on this channel because it's not my vibe, because I just think, I'm annoyed because it's a bit lazy, because I just think designers pick a stone slab at the stone yard and throw it on all surfaces and call it design, which listen, I'm not shading you interior designers because you actually do interior design, unlike me who just sits here and yaps about it on the internet. I get you, I respect what you do, but it just feels a bit lazy. Like I feel there's a lot more creative solutions you could do in the bathroom as opposed to just marble everywhere. Plus, as I said, it just feels a bit Russian oligarch and I don't really care for that for lots of reasons. So I don't love that bathroom. I think there's a way that you can use in materials like marble, like in the bathtub, which we've also seen really trendy for a few years now in luxury design. And you're seeing a lot more of that. They're just really getting really creative with sort of the material choices being used in their bathroom, which I think is really interesting. Matte bathtubs, super interesting. Different toilets. Usually I just think you should pick a standard toilet. That's not the worm. I hate the worm. I hate the worm toilet, but a standard toilet, don't get too funky, but a lot of people like to. And then you got interesting sinks that are happening as well. So definitely interesting things happening in the bathroom is currently very trendy. And of course, if you're super fancy, you can also put a fireplace in there too. But to be honest with you, that's just showing off in my opinion. Okay, and next up is going to be glass blocks and stained glass, or even a combination of both. Yes, I know the 90s glass blocks that we all thought we had seen firmly in the past are now back again. And stained glass, which of course was, you know, has been obviously is a very traditional element, is definitely back and in style again. I've seen DIYs of people fake stained glass. I've seen people put stickers, I've seen people put glue, I've seen people do all sorts of things to fake stained glass. Stained glass is very pretty. In my opinion, if I bought like a character home from like 1915 here in Vancouver and there was a stained glass window, I would keep it. I think making my own DIY'd with Elmer's glue is probably not something I'm going to do. But anyways, I digress. These things are very popular. People really do love to see, again, it's this sort of like traditional folksy things kind of being brought back. It's very pretty, it adds light. It just is really special and kind of adds like a little folksy moment, a little cottagey moment into people's lives. And they're very, very popular. Now the glass blocks, I will say, if you're like, oh, well, I have one from, because this is like my dad. My dad always says, it's like, oh, my sweater is back in style from 1968. It comes back in a different way, Dad. Okay, it's not always, you can't just bring back everything that was old and new again in the same way and think it's gonna always be super trendy. It doesn't work that way. It is brought back usually in a different setting and with different, like vintage things are brought back into contemporary settings, and that's really what's happening, as opposed to just like something looking incredibly dated and thinking like if you wait long enough, it'll come back in style. It comes back different, okay? It's not always the same. And the glass blocks is no different, okay? So yes, if you have the 90s glass blocks, they're not necessarily coming back and looking the exact same, but we are still seeing glass blocks, I think, as like more of a structural element. This is really also building on fluted glass, which has been very popular for a while. People trying different things when it comes to glass is just sort of an interesting trend that's happening right now. People taking, you know, regular old windows, or sometimes it could be a divider, say in like a bathroom, something like that they're using, and getting a little bit more creative, whether that's through color or pattern, which is something like stained glass, or whether it's just a unique structural element like what we're seeing with glass blocks. Definitely kind of interesting. Would I do this in my own house? Again, it depends. Like if it's a structural element, it's brought back in a really contemporary space, then yes, I would consider it. But you know, this is trendy now, but as we saw in the 90s, these were maybe not so great when you looked at them in sort of, you know, the last kind of decade or so. They've looked pretty dated. But stained glass, personally, I mean, hey, if you have the real stuff, it's still beautiful from this stuff. If you find one again in that 1915 Craftsman that you're able to buy, keep it, because if it looks beautiful now and beautiful then, it's pretty timeless in my opinion. Maybe not the Elmer's glue version, but you know, definitely an interesting trendy piece that is also a classic, which, let's be honest, are the best kind of trends to invest in. Okay, that's it for me for today, guys. I hope you really enjoyed this video. I'm going to throw you back to my 2025 Benjamin Moore Color of the Year video. Let's talk about color trends, because they really do point to what's happening in the rest of design, which is what you're sort of seeing in this video. So if you want to dive a little bit more into color, I recommend you go look at that video, and I'll see you all in the next one. Thanks, bye.